This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Once, they were two best friends managing a comic book store. But when an innocent blood oath went wrong, the two found themselves trapped in the same body, imprisoned in a strange pyramid made of long boxes, buried deep below their hometown, where they are doomed to discuss comic books until the end of time. They were once Joe and Matt. Now they are known as the Two-Headed Nerd. And this is their podcast.
Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha and caverns deep below the freezing metro area, it's our pleasure to welcome you to episode 770 of the Two-Headed Nerd comic book podcast, another landmark episode with a double fold-out foil cover and several variants. I am your head number one, and my name is Matt Baum, and the announcement of the Mark Guggenheim and Carrie Andrews Spider-Man and Wolverine has me wondering what to expect. Joe, what do you think we're going to get out of this one?
And I'm the internet's Joe Patrick, your head number two, and I guess I'm wondering how radioactive spider semen would affect Wolverine's healing factor.
And if you're asking, what are you talking about, Joe Patrick? Radioactive spider semen? That's crazy. Then you're disgusting. You make me sick. You know what? We didn't make that up. Carrie Andrews did in the pages of Spider-Man Reign. Look it up.
Look it up. In the original Spider-Man Reign, yes.
Sicko!
How Mary
That
Jane
guy.
died. Spoilers.
Good God.
It's time for another new comic show where we'll review 8 new comics from the last 2 weeks. And after that, we'll set you up with our must-read new comic picks for next week.
Thank you, Lord Steven, for a little help with that joke, by the way. If you are reading along with us,
stolen.
If you're reading along with us, prepare yourself for comics ripped from the headlines, like One World Under Doom, the real story of the Jersey Devil, the bugs fighting in your backyard, and, perhaps the most important news, the return of Chamber. It's review time in the Ziggurat!
Over the 14-year span of this podcast, we came up with an extremely accurate and logic-based rating system that simply cannot be argued with unless you think about it for more than a second.
Yeah, it's almost perfect.
Each comic we review is rated using our 3-point scale of buy it, skim it, or leave it. And in the end, we pick the best comic from this pile to add to our THN permanent collection. Our AI Macho posts our written reviews on twoheadednerd.com every week. In fact, they're already up there, baby. But you can only hear our new comic discussion twice a month on this very podcast. Macho, fetch our new review comics, please.
Right away, sirs. But for the sake of the children, perhaps no more semen jokes. Here are your review comics for the week of Wednesday, February 12th.
We begin with Bug Wars, number 1. From Image Comics. It's written by Jason Aaron, who's just simply not writing enough stuff right now, I guess. Art and cover by Mahmoud Asrar, colors by Matt Wilson, and letters by Becca Carey. It's 48 pages for $4.99. That is a sensible amount of pages for $5. I'll take that. Nice job, Image.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's your solicit. It's short. Let's just bust through it. Slade Slaymaker is a kid from Alabama, suddenly lost in a vicious world beyond his imagining. A world of marauding ant armies, spellcasting spider witches, and beetle-riding barbarians. A kingdom of tiny but deadly warriors hidden in his own backyard. The same world that saw his father eaten alive by insects now plunges young Slade into the middle of a brutal bug war to decide the fate of his family. So, you've got a John Carter of Mars kind of story, right? Like you're plucked out of a situation, dropped into another one, and you have some special powers that other people that live there don't have.
I prefer to think of it as Honey, I Shrunk the Kid meets Sectars.
I mean, sure. Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, there's bugs and shrinking and whatnot, but he also seems to be like, whereas John Carter of Mars.
I mean, yeah, it is also some John Carter.
He could jump. This kid seems to be able to punch, like really punch.
He's strong.
Yeah. Great cover. It's like a barbarian on a pile of bodies and dead bugs. And then there's this giant human figure behind him holding a bug spray can in the background, like just putting everything in focus. Great text lead in to set the stage to extremely Robert E. Howard, where it's like just setting the stage, where like violence erupted when the barbarian hordes from the, attacked the anthills of whatever. It's a tiny story, but Asrar puts in the work on these widescreen panels full of bug action and hyper violence. This is so violent. One of the bugs is dick naked. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, sure, they're bugs. I get it. Whatever.
Just the one, though. He was just like, no, man, I got to be free when I go into battle.
I mean, I guess, yeah. Very adult script, too. This is not screwing around at all. This is like what Sectars could have been, and maybe what the Sectars solicit wanted you to believe it was going to be when they were like,
the comic revival.
Yeah. When they, they were like, oh yeah, this is Game of Thrones meets Sectar. Like, is it really?
Yeah.
I'm not saying
nearly enough nudity and beheadings.
Yeah. I'm not saying Aaron's introducing, like bug incest or anything here yet, but maybe it's coming. I don't know. We'll see. We've got beetle fighters and that are like barbarians, and these ant soldiers that kind of seem like Romans or Spartans, but they're all female because they're defending the queen, right? So the women are the soldiers and the men, they're the workers, which is real ant stuff, which is kind of cool. Asrar can go wild with the violence in a story like this because it's full of green blood and purple blood. And like even the people that are getting dismembered, they're not like little people. They're little kind of Sectar bug people.
They're humanoid bugs.
Yeah, like the ant people are upright and the soldiers look feminine, but they do have like little feelers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The color palette in this is just gorgeous, and it sort of has this fog of war thing going on. Not where it's like out of focus, but the violence that's happening in a panel is very much up in front, and everything behind it is just kind of fogged out a little bit to show this is just complete chaos. Like you've got this insane battle feel going on. It's so well done. And the battle, as crazy as it is when these like beetles are moving into this anthill, it's just complete violent, insanity. And then it's just suddenly ended by something so huge. And that's where I don't want to ruin anything, but human interplay comes in, right? Like things happen and it's just godlike violence.
Like a natural disaster.
Right.
Yeah.
Slade is our human connection to the story, but Asrar, it really cleverly, like we get a whole story. It's not just all like kid removed from, his life and dropped into bug world. They really set up like the family dynamic really well. There's some trauma here. This is a family that's dealing with losing a parent, and mom's doing her best. And one of the kids is a nerd that kind of followed
in dad's footsteps.
Yeah, followed in dad's footsteps and fell in love with insects. And the other one hates what happened to dad and maybe had a problem with how much time dad spent with bugs before he thinks bugs killed him. I don't know. Yeah, there's a mystery there. And I have a feeling
I don't think he was even young enough. I think he was too young to even realize that his dad wasn't around all that much because he was only 5, it says.
No. Slade was, but the older brother was definitely.
No. The younger brother was 5 when dad was killed.
God. No, I'm talking about the older brother though. The one the
older brother. Sorry.
Yeah.
The older brother was 5 when dad was killed. And so it's just this indelible childhood trauma.
Right.
And I think that's when we know, I'm sure we all know people with childhood trauma that have idealized memories of their parents. This kids is the complete opposite of that.
No, for sure. But they do set up a really believable family dynamic that's going on during this Robert E. Howard, violent barbarian story totally. As well. And when the two come together, that's where I'm getting that John Carter of Mars kind of vibe.
No, you're right. It's definitely got some John Carter.
Oh, no question. It's so well written, so well drawn, and just a ton of fun. This is a huge buy it. And Jason Aaron is just going to be on our list at the end of the year for best writer. There's no way around it.
The dude moved on from the big two for the most part. and he's crushing it.
Yeah, he just, I think
on the indie stuff.
He is allowed. Well, not just that. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for crying out
That's
loud.
indie. That's an indie book. I mean,
sure, but there's
it's
still
a licensed book.
It's a licensed book, and there's still rules, right? It's not just
right.
his
Well,
sandbox.
I mean, are there? I don't know. Have you read it?
Yeah, no doubt.
This is a buy it from me as well. When I looked at the cover, I was like, oh, this is just like, this is a Sectars thing. I don't care about that. And then I looked at it more closely. And once I got into it, I was like, oh, okay, this is what he's doing. And it is a thrill ride, man. And your mistake would be in thinking that the scope of it is small. The size, like the literal physical size of the things that are happening are small, but the scope of the story, the scope of the world is huge. And I love the little things like in the back matter or in Dad's journal, there's like, here's a diagram of the bug world.
Yeah.
Of the yard, right? Is what they call it. Like,
right.
that's the mythical name is the yard.
But there's more going on there. Dad knows something.
But it's mapped out, right? And it's just like, okay, shed, driveway, yard, house, fence. Like, these are normal things. But then it's all peppered with, like, here's where all of the various anthill provinces are.
Right.
And here's where the hornets live, and we don't trust those guys. And the web weavers that live in the flowers.
And the maggot monks and stuff. And like, ooh.
Yeah, and it's just like there's a so mythology here, and the scope of the story is big while the physical size of the actual events is small. And that's why you can get away with things that happen in this issue where there's wholesale destruction from normal, mundane human things.
Yeah.
And it's great. This is a buy it from me. It's awesome. The art is gorgeous. It's another winner from Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Animate this. Put it on TV right now. Now.
Oh, yeah. Make this an adult animated show on like Max or something. Yeah. Matt, I know how much you love cops.
I don't.
And you support, you back the blue, baby.
I don't trust the pigs, man. You better have a warrant. You come over here. But I do break for space cops. I absolutely do.
Sure, right. My first book is Green Lantern Corps #1 from DC. It's written by Morgan Hampton and Jeremy Adams. Pencils are by Fernando Pasarin. Inks are by Eau Claire Albert or Albert. Colors are by Arif Prianto, and letters are by Dave Sharp. It's 32 pages for $3.99.
Or Sharpie.
It's Sharp.
That's an E in the end. You know, I'm just doing you.
Here's your solicit. The Corps is back, and just in time for the deadly new Fractured Spectrum saga to kick into full gear. Join the newly formed Green Lantern Corps as they head out into the galaxy in order to stop Sorrow and his master from creating a power battery.
Ooh. Were you worried? Like when I read that, I'm like, part of me is like, yes, I man, love a Green Lantern Corps. Good to have him back. And then it's like, there's another dude messing with the emotional spectrum and trying to make a power battery. And part of me is like, I'm like, is that all we do now?
Yeah. I mean, neither one of us loved that Fractured Spectrum one shot from a while back.
And I don't fully understand why we needed it. Like, I feel like you could have introduced a lot of those ideas right here.
Oh, sure. And, but I do I am sort of interested in the idea that the emotional spectrum is broken and that like people are just spontaneously developing weird powers that aren't based on the existing colors.
And I think they sold that.
That's kind of a fun thing.
Honestly, I think they sold that a little better here than they did in that one shot.
Correct. Totally agree. This seems like a return to form for both the Green Lantern line and the Green Lantern Corps, which has been in a weird way for a while now.
God, it feels like 10 years.
Right? Well, I mean, the whole United Planets thing with the corrupt leader and the corrupt Green Lanterns, like the Green Lantern Corps that we know and love is back. I loved the way that the creative team made it feel like an actual police procedural. Like if it wasn't set in space, you can see these people walking through the halls of Brooklyn Nine-Nine or the Law and Order precinct or wherever.
Sure. And it's nice just to like see them say things like, hey, you're under arrest by the power of the Green Lantern Corps and stuff like that. Like that is what they do.
There's a 1020 in the whatever sector.
Right. These guys aren't superheroes. They are space cops. That is their job.
Yeah. And this all comes complete with like a frazzled captain.
Oh, yeah.
And a tour of the bullpen, which is buzzing with activity. I'm going to more about that in just a second. Pasarin has been playing in this corner of the DCU literally for a decade or more. He's been drawing Green Lantern stuff. So his work is a great fit here. It's also incredibly detailed. The backgrounds are full of tiny storytelling moments. There's a bit running in the background of the first bullpen scene with this like blob creature that's handcuffed at a desk. And it explodes into a bunch of little tiny blobs.
Yeah.
And then they've got to like run around and catch them all. It's great. It's great. So good.
Yeah.
I do hope this issue is pretty focused on the Earth Lanterns, and I hope that it isn't always like that. I need to see more of a focus on the alien lanterns. Like
I will take it.
And Salak, and
I'll take it even a little further in that and say I think there's too many Earth Lanterns right now.
There are too many Earth Lanterns. We already had too many, and then in the New 52 they added 2 more.
And this is not me going, I don't need no female Earth Lantern. I don't need no.
Not at all.
I'm just saying, like my favorite part of the Green Lantern Corps, there's a bunch of aliens with crazy personalities that are also wearing rings. That's awesome.
Right.
You know,
totally agree. I mean, for better or for worse, all those Earth Lanterns do exist. This issue does give them all something to do, which I liked.
It does.
But less of a focus on those in the future, please.
Sure.
It does come off of it's a bit familiar at times, but I really loved it. It delivered some genuine surprises in the end. I thought this was great. This is a buy it from me.
Yeah, I feel way better about this than I did going into it because of that one shot. And it's not like that one shot was terrible. It just wasn't great. It just wasn't great. And the art is better here. Adams is leaning into what we love about it. He understands what Green Lantern Corps fans want, right? And Morgan Hampton is a part of this as well. I'd always like whenever they have 2 writers, it's like, I don't know. But I do feel like I'm picking up a lot of what Jeremy Adams is doing in the regular Green Lantern book that I love there. So good. He should be stewarding.
I liked that Morgan Hampton got top billing here.
Well, sure.
And Adams is a co-writer. Morgan Hampton was, I think, most recently seen on the last Cyborg ongoing.
Oh,
so like he's not a completely unknown quantity.
Right. No, but like, look, great. The guy that's steering the main Green Lantern book should have some say on this. Let's keep it somewhat tight because you're dealing with some of the same characters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless. I love the Green Lantern Corps. I've wanted to read a monthly Green Lantern Corps that makes me feel good again for 15 years, maybe. I don't know.
It's been a long time.
And it does feel like it's back. This is only issue 1, but this is a great start. It is a buy it from me. Very happy to have this book back. I need more Kilowog. God damn it. Okay?
Yes, totally.
You know he's the best. We all know he's the best. Give us more Kilowog. I can't say that I know Justin Jordan personally, but I can tell you he is listening to this podcast and he does appreciate it when we interview creators like we did last week who also have comic books with very long titles. Justin Jordan, he's looking up to Matthew Rosenberg when he decided to name his new book, Mine is a Long, Lonesome Grave, #1. That's a badass title, right there.
When your title's long enough to have a comma in it, you're doing something right.
Love it. Well, how many of them have colons and would dashes?
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? It's from Oni. It's written by Justin Jordan with art and cover by Chris Sheehan, colors by Alessandro Santoro, letters by Micah Myers. It is 40 pages for $4.99. So the solicit is very long. I'm not going to go in the whole thing, but what do we have here? We basically have a brass-knuckled gut punch of revenge horror torn from the forgotten corners of Appalachia, where magic and murder go hand in hand. This is about Harley Creed. He's a bad guy. This is a feel-bad comic right? Harley is not a hero, but he used to be way worse, and he's trying to be a little better. You've got a violent ex-con story basically here, and he has been cursed, and he's trying to deal with that curse. There's also a time limit on this curse. Dude has about 7 days to live, so he's got to figure some stuff out, or this curse is going to kill him. That's all you really need to know. There's some terrifying opening panels with just excellent art. It's very scratchy and sort of hyperactive to lift the emotion of what you see going on in these panels, but it's still very realistic, right? This isn't tracing or like even photo referenced, but it does have very realistic aspects to it. I love this art. I love it. It's sparse and kind of loose at times, but still very detailed and just packed full of emotions. Excellent colors and these sort of zipatone textures as well that are used to make panels feel deeper, darker, shadier, right? And make you focus on like...
I love it.
Yeah, it's
I love
so well done.
That use of... I love it when comics use that.
Because it's not in your face either. It's this way to do like a simple thing that almost tricks your brain, right? Because it's not like deeply shaded or super dark. Like some artists will come in real heavy blacks and then you have like a big white scared face. And that's fine. That's a great way to do that too. This is like a really light way to do it. And it just also injects this overlying creepiness that just is in the whole town. Everywhere. Like the town is lousy with this evil. Everywhere. You can't get away from it, right?
I love that it's like justified if Margot Martindale's character with the moonshine
Ma something or other.
It would be like if she ran a coven of witches or warlocks. Or whatever.
I mean, they're leaning into that like old timey Appalachian magic, but like there's nothing good about it. Absolutely.
It's all bad. Blair Witch shit.
Yeah, this is a story about loss, regret, but first and foremost, it's a story about punishment. He's being punished for his past sins. And he's trying not to absolve himself or anything, but maybe to just get out of that punishment because he does feel like he's changed a little bit. Not a whole lot, just enough. Right? Yeah. There's a mystery about a curse following this character. His wife died. His daughter blames him. Several people in his hometown don't want him here because he's a really bad guy.
Well, the town is run by the family.
I mean, they are, but at this point, we can't tell, like, is that family all bad also? Or is this guy just like that big of a son of a bitch, you know?
I think that family is all bad except for the preacher.
I think there's a little mixture of both, right? You know, like,
well, sure.
Nobody's good.
It's like,
here.
Boyd Crowder's wife's not all bad.
Right. No one is innocent, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
But the perspective of this story depends on who is telling it. Right?
Fair. Yeah.
The art is so good, so creepy when it needs to be. The story leans into this curse or these mystic parts, and the colors get very black, and the art is even more sparse when that happens. There's just a desperation in the story. It comes with the curse and the countdown. Harley is forced to do some terrible things to survive. Or is he being tricked this whole time? We don't really know. And that's what's great about it. Just don't go into this rooting for anybody. This is great comic book storytelling, though. It's a buy it. Loved this.
Yeah, I agree. It's a buy it for me as well. And I don't necessarily agree that there's any ambiguity at all as far as like what's like, is it actually happening to him? Yeah, I believe it's actually happening to him. Because he recognizes everything that's happening.
Oh, no, not that it's actually happening to him. It's just like the details of what's happening. Like, I believe he's cursed. I believe there's bad shit going on.
Yeah. No, he's definitely like literally cursed with a magic curse.
But is this curse using him? Or like, is there any way out of it? You know, that's what I'm saying, where the gray area comes in.
So, yeah, the implication, what the story wants you to think is that only one person is capable weaving this curse.
Right.
And she's in charge of the family, the evil or the corrupt family in question. And I would not be surprised at all to find out through the course of this series that, oh, surprise, it's actually somebody else that we did not expect.
Sure. Or is that curse, like, is what they've done even in their control? That's the other thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
yeah.
this whole, it's like the whole town just fucking ruined. Is it just, the whole place is damned.
I mean, that's what happens when you truck with magic, right?
Right.
Like we hear it all the time. It's like magic's got a cost.
Specifically black magic. Yeah.
if you build your seat of power on the back of this sorcery, well, then shit's gonna be fucked.
Well, and like, not to keep going back to Justified, but like, look at the people that did what they needed to do to survive, whether it was cooking meth or
it was
making
never
moonshine or hanging out with Nazis. Like, they were doing what they needed to do.
None of the characters in Justified got out of Harlan County by opening up a cute little Etsy shop that sold tchotchkes.
And I think that's the point. Like, the place was damned, literally.
You'll never leave Harlan alive. That's the song.
Yeah.
The art, I want to talk specifically really briefly about the art. Chris Sheehan has a way in certain scenes of letting the detail drop from his panels. And I don't mean that in like a lazy way. No. I mean the detail drops out. And then what you see instead of that detail is really horrifying.
Yeah. It like heightens that magic feel.
It's very, very well done. Like it becomes an unknown dread.
Right. Like your mind, like your human brain probably, if you looked right at this, wouldn't even know what it was looking at. It's just terror. Right. It's sheer terror.
When the comic tries to show us what the main character is seeing, it's bad. It's real bad. It's all bad.
Yeah.
So well done. This is a huge buy it. I missed Justin Jordan. Where's that guy been?
Tell me about it. And that's like, where has this guy been? That was my first thought. And I wrote that in my written review, like, good to have you back, sir.
I am happy to have you back as well. All right, let's get to the main event here. Everyone wants to know what we thought about One World Under Doom #1. It's #1 of 9. Yikes.
I mean, like, look, if this is going to last a year, fine.
Sure, fair. Yeah, right.
You know?
And it does seem to be monthly because the next issue is not out until mid-March.
Yeah.
So this is from Marvel, of course. It's written by Ryan North, current writer of Fantastic Four. Art by R.B. Silva, who you may recall from the early days of the Dawn of X, Hickman's X-Men relaunch.
Yeah.
Colors are by David Curiel. Letters are by VC's Travis Lanham. It's 40 pages for $5.99, which is not a reasonable number of pages for $6.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not as egregious as Ultimate Wolverine #1, but
but look, it's like we're buying tickets to an NBA game, right? They're going to get more expensive the closer you get to the playoffs. Right. This is the playoffs, baby. This is the big one.
Sure. You know what? And that's fine. Hey, if you want to make your big ticket books $6-7, go for it. Mm-hmm. Make your lower ticket books cheaper.
I don't disagree with that
cheaper than $4.
Either. That's a whole different discussion, but I don't disagree.
I know. All right, here's a bit of your solicit, because, good God, they just keep going. The world has woken up to a new reality. Dr. Doom, Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, has magically taken over every broadcast medium on the planet and declared himself Emperor of the world, the ruler of a new united Latveria. And shockingly, impossibly, all of Earth's leaders seem to be going along with this. Luckily, whether it's mind control or Doombots, whatever's affecting them hasn't affected Earth's heroes. And so they quickly form a strike team to stop Doom's machinations. So this issue, One World Under Doom, #1, we've been waiting for it a while. Dr. Doom became Sorcerer Supreme this summer at the end of Blood Hunt. And he said, I'll be back and my plan will unfold. Ha ha ha. And then he noped out of there for 6 months.
I like to think that Ryan North was like, let me see how this election ends real quick. And based on that, I might rewrite some shit, you know? And
yeah,
then
why not? Sure.
And then the election ended and he was like, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So this issue, it's a bit of a slow burn, but it is 1 of 9. Earth's heroes are learning about the extent of Doom's plans. right alongside the rest of the world. Everyone's watching it on TV at the same time. North does a really good job selling us on the lie, question mark?
Yeah.
That Vic's rule is actually good for humanity. The character voices are pretty spot on, even outside of the Fantastic Four characters. Silva's art is very, very good.
Yeah.
There's also something about it that felt kind of off to me.
The faces, right? The faces.
Many of the faces have a stiffness to them. Not in like a, hey, Greg Land, you traced this underwear model. But he's definitely working from reference in a lot of parts.
Yeah.
So there is an inhumanity to a lot of the faces. There's also an over-reliance on digital effects that I found distracting. Normally that kind of stuff does not bother me. But there's a lot of it here.
I think
it's like
it's the kind of thing where it's like they want this to be so big and event driven and slam bang. And I'm fine with digital effects when I don't notice them. But here you notice them, right? You know?
Yeah, it's like every energy blast is like added in post. Every like lick of flame that you see is a digital fire.
Yeah.
You know, and then you also add in like Tony's VR heads up display is everywhere. You know, there's just a lot of it happening.
It's like anime.
I found it kind of a distraction.
It's anime when there's too much CG. Like when it's done well and you can't tell, great. But when it's obviously CG, you know, and there's so much of it.
But all of that said, like the actual, like the bones of the art is still very good. Silva's a great artist.
He is great.
I've been really eager for this event to start. And I would say that for the most part, One World Under Doom delivers. Like I'm excited to read the rest of the story. And I like that it's sort of like a long haul. Like we're not going to see the resolution to this until September, October.
Yeah.
I did have some reservations. I'm still giving it a buy it because I did really enjoy it.
I think I'm giving this a buy it as well because I like where Ryan North is going here. And I feel like all of the last 10 Marvel massive events have either been, oh my God, it's a universe ending threat, or, oh my God, it's a magic threat that's going to erase reality. And this is just happening in the world on a geopolitical, field. And Doom is on TV and he's like, I'm in charge. Everybody swore fealty to me. I'm the king now. And the first thing they do is they show all the heroes and they're sitting there around a table. And Captain Marvel's like, well, I'm open to suggestions.
That's great.
You're not just dealing with like, we all know who the bad guy is. It's that giant alien ship, or it's these fucking vampires that are ripping people apart. It's like, this guy is pretending like he just saved us all. What do we do?
And humanity's buying.
And humanity, for the most part, strangely, like sort of like what we're seeing outside our window right now, is going, yeah, they're doing the thing. I'm glad they're doing it. Like I fully believe in this Marvel universe, there are people on TikTok right now playing guitar and singing about how great Dr. Doom is.
Right? Sure, right. Yeah, make Latveria great again. Sure.
So I think North is doing a really good job there. They need to tone down this art a little bit. Like just let RB Silva be RB Silva. He's great. And it's almost like they're helping him a little too much. Right?
Well, and the thing is that I don't know, is Silva the one doing it?
I don't think so.
Or is the colorist doing it?
I don't think so.
Because he's doing full art.
Because it looks...
I'm not counting the colors.
No, I agree, but it looks like separate... I mean, if it is, then it's a clumsy thing where he's just slapping this on top of his art. Because there's some of it just looks completely separate. Like completely... Like you could lift this overlay off and the art would be fine, And I just don't fully understand
and that's
it.
kind of how Photoshop works.
I guess.
Yeah. He probably... I think if we looked at the original files,
you can see the layers. I think that's
the black and white files, we would see a color energy blast added by RB Silva.
Maybe.
Because he knows what he wants that to look like.
Right. Like I'm looking at a panel right now of Sue making an airplane invisible, and there's so much techno bullshit that's also going on, like around her, behind her, in front of her, that's just not needed. It just isn't needed.
Totally agree.
The panel by itself would be fine. right? It's just
Totally,
a little
yeah.
too much.
Yep.
This is a buy it, though. I'm excited about this story. I love what they're doing with Doom. North has Doom's voice so perfectly down. He should by now. He's been writing Fantastic Four for a while. And I like they're giving Ryan North a shot at a big event.
Yeah.
I'm on board. It is a buy it, but please tone down the art a little bit, you guys. Just a little. Right? 20%. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, that's fair. 20% is fair.
20%.
Well done keeping it relatively clean, sirs. I know it's not easy for you. And now your review comics for the week of Wednesday, February 19th.
Thank you, Macho. And as we move into this week, we move into a story about a cryptid. So I had to be there. I love monsters, especially ones that may or may not exist. They don't exist, but I wish they did. This is Let This One Be a Devil, #1. It's from Dark Horse. It's written by James Tynion IV and Steve Fox. Art by Peter Kowalski. Colors by Brad Simpsons. Letters by Tom Napolitano. Main cover by Gavin Fullerton. There are variants by Kowalski and Max Fiamura. All 3 covers are so cool. I mean, this is one that I probably would have bought all 3 variants because they're great. It's 32 pages for $4.99. Here's your solicit, short and sweet. In the early 1900s, Harry Naughton returns home to the family farm in the swampy Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey. One night, he encounters a strange predator stalking the woods. This sends the young scholar on a research project that uncovers the legend of the Mother Leeds and the terrible birth of the Jersey Devil in 1735. The best part about this is these jerks did the research. And I'm not saying the Jersey Devil is real. No one is saying that. But there is real witness accounts and a real legend behind the Jersey Devil. If you know anything about it, or you're like a total weirdo and you listen to cryptid podcasts like I do, they did their research here and they did such a good job of it. Now, Kowalski didn't necessarily do the same research, but he is so good bringing to life this sort of very small town 1900s New Jersey Pine Barrens town, right? And doing it with these super scratchy lines and his very realistic, very emotional art. He's so good here. One thing I always like talk about when I'm talking about monster movies and stuff is like the timing. You got to wait and you make us wait till we're frothing at the mouth and we're so terrified. And then you show us the monster. This one does exactly the opposite. It's like page 3, monster. And when we see the monster, it is so goddamn scary that it belongs on the cover of any quality death metal record. It is so great. The story jumps back in time from there to this origin of the Jersey Devil. And again, Kowalski makes childbirth look like just an absolute nightmare, especially when this family already has 12 damn children. It's like, what is this guy doing to this poor woman? Man. Ugh. Jesus. And I love the mom is like, this is too many kids. Yeah, totally agree. Excellent final panel for this story here. And then there's a second story about a poltergeist that follows a family that's haunted by this ghost. Really solid black and white art with some really creepy side panels. No mention of this in the solicit whatsoever, so I didn't even know it was coming. The story is called True Weird. I'm assuming this is also based off some real legend type story.
Yeah, right.
Script by Rachel Deering, art by Jesse Lonergan. Lonergan's a name I recognize. I can't call out stuff that he's done off the top of my head, but we've definitely talked about that name
I recognize
before.
His name from Twitter. I like, he's a jokester on Twitter. I've seen his tweets.
Fair enough. It's also really good, just like a solid ghost story. And so if you're looking for this sort of real monster, real ghost, legend type stuff, this is fantastic. It's going to be right up your alley. It's super creepy. It's beautifully illustrated. And it really reminded me of sort of that Project Blue Book.
Well, it's the same. I mean, it's the same
type thing where they're telling a UFO story there.
This one's with folklore.
This one is with monsters and ghosts and whatnot. And I would also say this one's not boring. I'm going to give this a buy it.
I didn't really like the Blue Book one.
This is a buy it.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton to add. I thought this was really, really good. The art is fantastic. Kowalski, we're big fans around here.
Yeah. God, he's
and
good. So good.
The second story was a pleasant surprise. I grew up loving folklore, like Jersey, like you can call it. We call it cryptids now, but like local legends, like regional stuff, like Mothman and
sure. Well, those are cryptids though. Paul Bunyan is folklore. Paul Bunyan's not a cryptid,
but big, like Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil,
right?
Like, I think that it moves into the realm of folklore when it's been out for literally hundreds and hundreds of years.
I would totally disagree. I would argue one is folklore, one are cryptids, because people think they might actually exist. Nobody thinks it folklore. Right?
Well, so I digress. I grew up loving that stuff, and I still kind of love it. I don't follow it as much as I did when I was a little kid, but I thought this was fantastic. This is a buy it for me. What's the line called? True Weird? Or?
True Weird, yeah.
I like this much better than the Blue Book one.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about things that go bump in the night. Let's move on to Zatanna #1 from DC. Story, art, and colors, all by Jamal Campbell. Letters are by Ariana Maher. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. It's pretty short. Zatanna Zatara, the Mistress of Magic, is back on tour. She's got her stage crew back together and is looking forward to a new, less chaotic chapter of life. However, her plans are disrupted before they even begin when her stage crew is abducted by a ghostly new adversary, the Lady White. Now Zatanna is plunged into machinations of tricks, swords, and curses that threaten to tear her apart from the inside out. So Zatanna is the latest, arguably lower tier character to get the all-in treatment. See also Metamorpho, Black Lightning, like a lot of character Challenges of the Unknown. A lot of characters are getting the spotlight that probably weren't 5 years ago.
But I mean, like Zatanna she's got to be above most of everybody you just named.
Yes, I agree, but
B-list, I would say.
She also
B-list.
ain't Superman.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
But she's B-list. She's not C-list.
No, I totally agree. That's why I said arguably lower tier.
Sure.
This continues DC's current streak of putting great creators on characters that aren't necessarily the big guns, showing that those heroes are worthy of that spotlight. And I'm really enjoying what DC is doing with these characters. Campbell knows Zatanna inside and out. It is clear from the jump. He's able to capture that feel of a performer and her family-like crew. You've seen it in all sorts of things. It was established for Zatanna, I think most notably by Paul Dini back in the early 2010s.
Yeah, absolutely. Before that, she was a ridiculous
her last
character. Yeah.
I mean, she's always been a stage performer, but
no, but like it was Paul Dini that really like gave her
this whole secondary cast.
Yeah.
The magical mystery surrounding this lost industry legend is a lot of fun. Campbell's art is a visual feast.
Yeah, holy damn hell. This guy drew the hell out of this. It's so good.
It switches from style to style at the drop of a hat. The ultra vibrant colors contribute to the book's magical feel. Like it's ethereal.
I got like this J.H. Williams feel from this book. The way he's playing with panels and stuff and messing with his style.
Sure, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can see that.
It's great. It's just beautiful.
In my opinion, this issue makes a strong case that Zatanna's latest mini should be upgraded to an ongoing, very similar to the way that Green Arrow was upgraded from a mini to an ongoing during Dawn of DC, the last kind of big relaunch.
I mean, we all kind of knew Green Arrow was going to be okay.
Well, did we though?
I think so. It's Green Arrow, dude.
I think DC was in a place where like, unless we see it performing, it's going to be a mini.
Fair.
But I think that Campbell makes a strong case that Zatanna can support an ongoing series. based on the strength of this issue.
I hope so.
But it depends on how many Zatanna stories he's got in him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, are we freaking out because it's Zatanna and we're like, I'm excited about Zatanna, or are we freaking out because Campbell has a really good Zatanna idea right now?
Well, right now,
time will
both.
tell. We'll see. Time will tell.
I'm giving Zatanna number 1 a buy it. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm on record as saying I don't like Zatanna. I think Zatanna's powers are dumb. And I think Campbell did a really good job of dialing back all that backwards talking shit and focusing more on the fact that, like, look, she's also just inherently magic and does a lot of magic stuff.
I don't know if we read the same comic.
No, I mean, there's
she's
plenty
talking
of it.
backwards constantly in
There's
this comic.
plenty of it, but it's not like the only thing she does, which is what typically when she's in the Justice League or something, I'm always like, well, why doesn't she just say backwards, like, hey, we win this fight, or whatever, right? It's a Scarlet Witch type thing. And he's not relying on that solely to do what she's doing. It's there. She used her powers. Sure. But also, like you said, this art, outstanding, really outstanding. And
it's stunning, really.
I think this balanced, just like we were talking about in One World Under Doom, I think this book, Campbell was good enough to balance those digital effects just enough to lift his art slightly where it's not noticeable. We're not going, oh, come on. Like, there's so much digital. There's plenty going on here. Even like, the scenes where she's got like the weird pink lasso and stuff, that's all digital, but it works really well. Maybe he's
right
better at it. I don't know, but
everything. I mean, I don't want to break the illusion for anybody, but every bit of color in this book is a digital effect.
It is.
It's just that
it's not in your face.
When you tweak that effect to make it not flat or to make it glow or to give it, depth or shading, you can do it in such a way like Campbell does it here, where it makes the book shine.
Yes.
Or you can do it in a way like R.B. Silva did it in One World Under Doom, where it's just like, here's a fire filter.
And I guess that's what I'm saying.
Flames.
It's not in your face. It's lifting you.
Yeah,
it's doing the job. And it's subtle and it's great.
It's a better utilization of the tool.
Absolutely. I'm giving this a buy it. And this is coming from someone who inherently doesn't care about the character of Zatanna. This was good. My final review of the show goes to a book by a man that I've often been accused of wanting to be my boyfriend, Mr. Joe Casey. This is Weapon X-Men #1 by Marvel Comics, written by Joe Casey with pencils by ChrisCross, another guy I'd probably kiss in the mouth. Inks by Mark Morales, colors by Yen Nitro, who sounds like a rad Japanese wrestler. Right?
Yeah, Yen Nitro.
Letters by VC's Clayton Cowles, cover by Alex Ross. It is 32 pages. It is $4.99. Here's just a list. Wolverine, Deadpool, Cable, Chamber, Thunderbird, together on their very own X team for the very first time. For the very first X time. All in an extra-sized first issue. When
Joe Casey wrote this.
Joe Casey wrote the shit out of this. When a high-stakes mutant rescue mission from the ultimate global hotspot exposes the true enemy, possibly from within, an all-new team of action icons suddenly find themselves forged in fire. And the official membership policy is no mercy allowed. Like, it's just insane. Joe Casey is a creator that worked on the X books, late 90s, early 2000s, and went on to do it.
Yep.
Went on to do a bunch of Wildstorm stuff that I loved. Like, it went on to work on a ton of great comics. The guy has a very singular voice, but he's also proven he can come back and capture some of the best things about characters like Deadpool, Cable, Wolverine. He just knows how to make them talk.
He had a kick-ass run on Cable in the 90s. It was
so good. Like, my favorite run of Cable, probably the reason I love Cable, is Joe Casey, quite honestly. Because there's so much Cable shit that I cannot stand. I feel like I'm allergic to it, almost. He's just so good at, like, little things like writing Wolverine's internal dialogue and I'm going to gush here for a little bit. I'm sorry. But ChrisCross was one of those artists back at that same time. Worked on, like, the last time I really remember him was Firestorm and Captain Marvel Volume 3.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that was so long ago.
Right? Like, so long ago. We're talking, like, early 2000s. And the dude's art was so flashy, but in the best way. Not, like, flashy just to be flash. He understands how to make a panel look kick-ass and give it depth and give it motion. He's not just drawing. This is nothing against Jim Lee. Not taking anything away from Jim Lee. But I would argue Jim Lee is very good at drawing a spread page that looks fucking kick-ass. But Jim Lee has some trouble making Batman do that jump, off the building and land on the thing and like, the motion he has some trouble with. ChrisCross is so good at what he does. And it's been so long since we've seen him. I would argue ChrisCross and Chris Bacalo are the only two artists that should ever draw Chamber. Chamber, if you don't know him, mutant, that basically blew out his chest with his power. And there is constantly energy radiating out of him. And he can shoot that energy out of his mouth, like to chest area. Right? And there's a lot of artists that draw him. It just looks ridiculous. And ChrisCross is so good with arguably one of the hardest mutants to draw, not to mention draw their power in action here. He's just great. So for those of you that don't know, this idea, Weapon X-Men, was a title that Joe Casey came up with and pitched. And they said, great, we love it. And he said, okay, I'll get my story to you. And they're like, well, let's hold off for a little bit. Brevoort's got some ideas to do some things. Oh, by the way, we're using the title Weapon X-Men for a mini series that's going to be all the Wolverines. Old Man Wolverine, Laura, right? Because
the Wolverine from the other dimension with the gold claws.
Yes.
The adamantine claws.
They were all in there. And I want to say Christos Gage wrote it, maybe. And Joe Casey was like, whatever, that's fine. Do your thing. I don't care. But I still want my book to be called Weapon X-Men. And Deadpool is going to make a ton of jokes about it and rub your face in it. And I'm going to speak directly through Deadpool, who's the perfect choice.
He comes just short of breaking the fourth wall, but he's basically breaking the fourth wall to make fun of the title of the book.
He breaks the hell out of the fourth wall. He's talking about actual creators.
Oh, that's true. No, you're right. He does reference comics. Yes, you're right.
Several creators. And he's using Deadpool to tell those jokes, which in any other writer's hands could come off way too heavy-handed and stuff. But when Joe Casey is like, not only am I reclaiming the name of this group because it's so perfect for what's going on here, but I'm also going to make fun of other creators that used it and the fact that we're using Deadpool and Wolverine in yet another book together.
Right.
He's just calling it out and he's owning it. And it's great. Like, this is straight up throwback, explosive, ridiculous 90s flashy X-Men comics. There's barely like a reason for it to be going on other than One World Under Dome.
It's also smart.
That's my point. It's done smart. It's not just all the flash and a bunch of very still splash pages that look really good because you're going to buy it because Deadpool and Wolverine are here. No, there was like Joe Casey stuff going on. So it's fun. It's well written and it looks tremendous. The art is so good here. Not to mention, I'm so glad.
All right. Stop gushing.
I'm sorry. Not to mention, though, I'm so glad to have Proudstar back. Like, James Proudstar and a reason to be around other than, Gold Balls brought him back. With the
John,
gang.
right? John?
I'm sorry, John Proudstar. John, yeah.
John is Warpath, I think.
John's the asshole, basically.
Yeah, John's the asshole.
Great to have him back. This is just fun. And it's an old head book, sure. But I also feel like you don't have to have the experience. You can be a younger guy and just go into this and have a really good time with one of the best looking X titles out there right now. And that is not saying a whole lot because there's a bunch of X books and not all the art is great. I'm giving this a buy it. I'll stop.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm not going to really take up any of your time because, Matt, had to get his feelings out. But,
Sorry, I love this creative
No, it's
team
fine.
so
I get
much.
it. I get it. And I agree with you on every level. This book is tremendous. It's a buy it from me. I love Joe Casey. I love ChrisCross. I love Joe Casey's superhero work.
Yeah.
Like he writes a lot of stuff, but I specifically also really love his superhero work. Like the things he's done at Wildstorm and the things he did at Marvel in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Sure.
I've loved ChrisCross since forever. He did a run of Peter David's Captain Marvel, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, incredible.
And that was really the last time that he settled in on a long run of comics. And he's been around doing things here and there, 1 issue, 2 issues, 4 issues here and there.
He did 2 volumes of Captain Marvel. He did a volume
Well, they
volume 1.
relaunched that book 3 times.
Yeah,
It's a mess. Don't ask me to get into that. But it's so good. This book is awesome. It's a buy it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And damn, an Alex Ross cover on this weird nonsense.
Super weird.
It's amazing.
And yeah, like on paper, it's the dumbest thing in the world. But you add Joe Casey and you add an artist like ChrisCross, you got X Gold. Period.
It's the dumbest thing in the world in the hands of creators that are less skilled.
Absolutely.
At doing this specific thing.
So see the previous Weapon X-Men miniseries that nobody.
Oh, look, no shade. I didn't read it, and neither did you.
It was bad. It was bad. I read it. It was bad.
Well, all right, whatever. I'm sad that this is not an ongoing, but I'm sort of glad in the sense that like when Casey and ChrisCross inevitably move on, I don't know that there are writers that I would want to see take it over that I trust to do what Joe Casey is doing.
But if this sells really well, guess what? They're going to get an next book.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. Let's wrap up. Let's stay with Marvel here for the actual final review of this podcast. Thunderbolts Doomstrike #1 from Marvel. I said that. Sorry, already. I said it twice. It's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. I always have to pause to get that second N in there.
Yeah, so you know, say Lanzig.
Lanzig, right? Like Danzig.
Right.
Art is by Tommaso Bianchi. Colors are by Yen Nitro.
Back again.
From the top rope, Yen Nitro.
Yeah.
Letters are by VC's Joe Sabino. I think that's 2 for Joe this week. Cover is by Linnell Francis Yu. It's 32 pages for $4.99. Marvel's pricing makes no fucking sense.
Nah.
Here's your solicit. I'm going to skip the shouty
You know what?
bits.
I would argue it does make sense. Movie coming. Pay up, suckers. There you go.
Oh, fair. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. That's true. Here's your solicit. Doom took over the world, and Bucky Barnes helped him do it. To atone for his unwitting role in Doom's triumph, Bucky assembles a team with one goal: burn it all down. But when Bucky's saboteurs, including Black Widow and Black Widow's symbiote and Songbird, launch a no-holds-barred campaign to tear Doom's empire apart, Doom decides to prove that revolution ends in blood. So the first thing you need to know going into this is that it's just as much a continuation of the writer's work with Bucky in Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty and the previous Thunderbolts volume, which we now call Thunderbolts World Strike. So if you're coming into this thinking it's a clean, brand new concept, don't.
It ain't. I was a little lost, to be perfectly honest.
It was a struggle for me as well, since I read Captain America, but not The Last Thunderbolts. This issue wastes no time, though, setting up the plot, and the story moves at breakneck pace.
Yeah.
It's full of MCU synergy, and, you know, whatever. I can take or leave it. It's not really distracting in this, and so I give it a pass. Doom's true colors, though, are already showing. Any pretense that he's acting benevolently is thrown right out the window. We see Songbird, Citizen V, and Fixer. So I loved the throwback to the original Thunderbolts. There's an excellent twist with the new Citizen V's identity, which I had to do some research about because, like I said, I did not read the previous volume of Thunderbolts. Lansing and Kelly make time for emotional moments amidst the blockbuster action, which I thought was great. I loved the art by Bianchi and Nitro.
Yeah.
It's it's dark and moody one moment, then it's bombastically vibrant the next. The figure drawing does get a little weird at times. But all said, this is a worthwhile companion piece to the main event. You probably don't need to read it to understand One World Under Doom, but I think you will be glad you did. It is a tie-in that matters. I'm giving this a buy it. I thought it was great. I think it's even better if you have that context from the previous run, but having read the Captain America stuff, I kept up well enough.
Okay, fair. I do think the Songbird art was like the only thing that got kind of weird for me.
She's got this weird, like, half-shaved haircut thing.
I don't know what they were, but not even that. Yes, her hair is bizarre, but more than that, it's like she was the one figure that I had trouble with, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't think I had the same experience you had. I liked, this is well written, but there was an aspect to it that kind of felt like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, sort of like movie coming. So here's some aspects of the movie and here's some aspects of the comic. And when I say aspects of the movie, I just mean team makeup and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like Red Guardian is going to be in it.
Right. Like,
Yelena is in it.
And maybe I didn't, because I did not read that last Thunderbolts. It wouldn't feel as forced, but like not reading it, I just came in and was like, what is going on? And it kind of seemed like we just sort of smashed some shit together a little bit. And I think, I don't know. I think because I like these creators, I want to say Kelly and Lansing are doing the best that they can with maybe some editorial directives to get some stuff in this book. And it is good. It's well written. But it just sure feels like they crushed a lot in here. And like you said, I didn't read that last Thunderbolts, so I was completely lost with some of it and just had to let it wash over me a bit. I'm going to give it a strong skim it. But I just, there was so much of it that just felt like he was smashed in there and I didn't know what was going on.
Sure. And to be fair to your experience and to be fair to the creators, I think reading this independent of the previous Thunderbolts series is a lot like coming into an ongoing series with part 6 of 12.
Sure. What maybe. Yeah. But it also just feels like they're trying to please a lot of Thunderbolt.
But because I think that those movie characters, I think a lot of that stuff was already baked into this new version of the Thunderbolts.
And that could be. If you don't know that, it just feels like
that's what I'm saying.
We're trying to please potential movie fans and old fans, and it can make your brain kind of go, okay.
Yeah, that's what makes me say, hey, maybe if you read the original volume, you'd probably get a little bit more out of it.
So I'm going to give it a strong skim it. The art is very good. Other than some weirdness with Songbird. And okay, no spoilers, but maybe another character too.
Tell us what you thought about these comics on our Discord, where the new comics discussion starts again every Wednesday. Before we're done here, we need to choose one of these comics to enter the THN Permanent Collection. Matt, which is it going to be?
This is going to piss you off. It's Bug Wars. I squirmed and yelled and like felt all my feelings for my boyfriend.
Yeah, no,
Joe
that
Casey.
doesn't piss me off.
It's Bug Wars. Bug Wars is just Jason Aaron having fun and doing something that I love and harkening back to like I said, Robert E. Howard shit that I love. And it just feels so original. It feels original. It's great. I went into it not knowing anything. I came out of it going, give me more of that. Bug Wars.
Bug Wars is great. Zatanna is great. The Jersey Devil book is great. Like, there are a lot of great books this week.
We read a lot of good stuff.
In fact, I think we really loved all of the books. Questionable stuff about Thunderbolts. I think we really loved all of our picks for this week. And it's tough for me. Bug Wars is worthy. But I'm giving it to Green Lantern Corps just because I think this could be the start of a really great run featuring the Corps kind of restored to their former glory.
Fair enough. My second pick would have been Mine is a Lonesome Grave, because that book is awesome. God, that's awesome. But
it is good.
I know I'm going to love
Mine would have been Zatanna. So
I know I'm going to love Green Lantern.
We're totally playing to type here. You picked the gross and violent heavy metal books. I picked the heartwarming superhero books. We are who we are.
Sure. It's Time to head up to THN Sanctum Sanctorum to make our must-read picks next Wednesday, February 26th. Joe, these nerds, they don't have a lot of money, okay? Some of them can only afford one comic book a week. If they had to pick one, which one is it?
Yeah. Well, I can only tell you what I would pick if I were in that position.
The good news is there's only a couple things to pick next week.
It's slim pickings next week. That's true. The book that I would choose is Jump Scare #1 from Dark Horse. It's written by Cullen Bunn with art by Danny Luckert. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's why I would choose this book. I love Cullen Bunn horror comics, and I love superheroes.
No. Never.
I know, right?
Yeah,
you just got done talking about it.
It's like I don't even know you.
Jump Scare, who is an ultra-violent antihero that can conjure any weapon from any horror movie she's seen.
That's fun.
And she's seen a lot of them.
That's fun.
It seems like a perfect blend of the two. And they're like made up movies too, obviously.
Sure.
It's not going to be like, she summons Jason's machete. No, it's like, here, the Weed Whacker from this ridiculous horror movie name from 1970, whatever.
It's Green
awesome.
Lantern if you could only summon horror movie weapons. It's great.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. Now, this ties in to the Beyond Mortal universe, which was created in a graphic novel that these two did on Kickstarter. They kickstarted the first issue, and then the graphic novel came out, which collected that first issue and then the remaining unpublished issues. I never read that, but I still think it would be right up my alley. We got our advanced copies from Dark Horse already. I looked at it. It looks like a wild ride. And so if I'm picking one thing next week, it's Jump Scare.
Fair. I mean, you can't go wrong with a Cullen Bunn horror book at Dark Horse.
You cannot.
You really can't.
Yep.
My pick for next week, Herculoids, #1 from Dynamite. It's written by Tom Snagowski with art by Craig Rousseau, 32 pages, $4.99. Here's your solicit. Building on the success of the critically acclaimed and best-selling Space Ghost series, give me a break, Dynamite. We know what you're doing here, okay? You license stories. Space Ghost sold well. You want to do another one. For those of you who don't remember, Herculoids, it was like the family, mom, dad, kid, and they work with a team of super monsters to fight aliens that are trying to take over the planet Azimuth for reasons that they never spelled out in the cartoon. We never learned their origin, and we never learned why there were constantly alien threats coming to this planet. So,
you got your gloop and your gleep.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing I loved about this cartoon. This was the Hanna-Barbera superhero cartoons of the late 60s. I wasn't around for that, but they had reruns that continued in the 80s when I was growing up. This was stuff that was on like
USA Cartoon Express.
Yeah, USA Cartoon Express. That's where I met Space Ghost, and I met the Herculoids, and I met Birdman and shit like that, right? Yeah. The Herculoids was my favorite because it was a monster team up. They all had special powers. You had like a strong gorilla type guy, Igu, and you had like Tundrar, which is basically a rhino with 6 legs that shot rocks out of his nose.
Out of his horn. Out of his horn, yeah.
Yeah, out of his horn. Gloop and Gleep, which were just like stretchy monsters that had a guy that went to make them talk. And then Zoc, which is like a dragon that could fire lasers out of his mouth and his tail. And the dude that did the voice acting is some of the best voice acting in the world because all it is a guy that's basically going, ah! Just like screaming into a microphone. It's so good. So back in 2016, DC put out a comic called Future Quest where we finally got some type of origin for these characters. We found out that they were scientists from a neighboring planet that like kind of got taken over by robots and AI and stuff like that. So they left the prehistoric planet because they're like, done with that. Not going to deal with it, right?
Ripped from the headlines.
Sort of. I don't know if that's going to happen here, but these characters, these creators, have a chance to give these characters like a real origin and explore it. And I will say Rousseau is absolutely doing Alex Toth here. Alex Toth, comics legend, went to work for Hanna-Barbera, created a lot of these characters.
Designed a lot of iconic things.
Yeah.
All the Space Ghost stuff is Alex Toth.
And this is a love letter to Alex Toth's
Thundar the Barbarian
animated art. It looks so great. And I just want this to be fun. That's all I ask. Do I think it's going to be excellent? I don't know. I hope it is. And we can have fun with this comic. We shall see. Your mileage may vary if you're not an old guy that had that exposure to the Hanna-Barbera comics, but fingers crossed.
You know, the thing is that we know Tom Snagowski's work.
He's good.
From the Hellboy universe. And so
Snagowski's
I'm not
really
really
good.
worried about this.
Yeah, I feel like they have some reverence for this as well, for the creator's sake. Not necessarily because, like, the cartoons were so amazing and in-depth. Like, this is a chance to do something with those characters.
They are not.
Right? No.
Let me tell you.
No, Alex, they were cranking this shit out for him. Like I said, they never even gave us an origin as to what was going on with Hercules.
I think the real question isn't going to be, will the book be any good? It will be, does the concept have legs to tell a real serious story?
Can we have fun? Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
And I think it does. You just need the right creators.
Yeah.
Excelsior!
That's it for THN 770. If you dig our new comic show, check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe to all our shows separately. If you're just regularly subscribing to the podcast, then you know every other week we do a back issue show, but we also have a gang hang that's only on YouTube. And you can listen to them as podcasts on YouTube Music as well. Next week, in honor of Chip Zdarsky's final issue of his Batman run hitting the stands a couple weeks ago, we are going to revisit some final issues of some classic long runs, some of which probably affected us because we're not going too far back. But there's a couple where I was like, I want to investigate and see what this was like.
Some are more
back in the
classic
day.
than others.
Some are more classic than others. Some it was just like back in the day, you were done on the book. Nobody cares about you. Get out of here. Right?
Yes.
Right.
And also, some of these celebrated runs, the final issues aren't really anything special.
Sure. I mean,
it'll be an interesting discussion.
Think of the final episode of Seinfeld, you know? If you need more THN before that, join us for the THN Gang Hang. We do it on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. Check out our Discord for details at twoheadednerd.com/Discord. We're going full spoilers, Cap 4 this week and digging into it. And there are real criticisms that have nothing to do with racism or DEI. Fuck you if that's your criticism. We've got some other things we'd like to talk about. So
sure. We're also probably going to talk spoilers, weapons free, so to speak, on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the Disney Plus cartoon.
Fair. I got to catch
because
up.
Because it ended, and let me tell you, it's magical.
I have got to catch up. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the generosity of donors like our patron, Anthony D., son of legendary Seattle-born rapper Heavy D of Heavy D and the Boys. You can check out our extras this week. We're playing Ask a Nerd. We had a lot of fun answering some of your extremely nerdy questions, digging into Cable and his time-traveling problems, for example. And you get access to these for $1 a month because we are not smart enough to actually monetize our podcast. So take advantage of us. All right. If you've got a question you want two nerds to answer, head to our Discord, post on our Ask a Nerd channel, and you can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/2headednerd.
I feel like we can't stress this enough. You're allowed to give more than $1 a month if you want to.
But
if you think we're worthy of it.
We should just enforce it, but you know what? We're too smart.
Nah, why not? Fuck it. Before we go, our weekly shout-out goes to Griffin Query Peterson, a young man that I used to sell comics to at Legend Comics and Coffee back when he was just a kid. Well, the thing about getting older is that kids grow up, which normally only serves to remind me that I'm on a speedy march to the grave. In Griffin's case, however, I am very happy to share that he and his fiancée, Aisha, were married on Valentine's Day last week. Congratulations from our ziggurat to yours, you lovebirds.
Until next time, True Reliever, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might just get you all fired up for this return of Gwen Stacy thing that turns out just to be another Gwenpool comic. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off.
So stupid.